Welcome one and welcome all to the greatest show of them all. It is the NFC East Mixtape, officially volume 162, I believe. We'll see about making it a weekly occurrence once again. That is the fight that we continue to fight. I say we. I am RJ Ochoa from Blogging the Boys. He is Brandon Lee Gowton from Bleeding Green Nation. You can watch this episode live on Wednesday, February the 19th, 2025, on either the Blogging the Boys or Bleeding Green Nation YouTube channels. Today, of course, Wednesday, February the 19th, is now 11 days since the Philadelphia Eagles won Super Bowl 59, aka Super Bowl LIX. That is my opening statement, and I did not know that you were a cigar smoker, Brandon, unless that's a prop. But congratulations to the Birds. They were the best team in the NFL.
What was first just a dream has become a frightening reality for those who may oppose the Philadelphia Eagles. The Super Bowl 59 champion Super Bowl Eagles, two-time Super Bowl champion Eagles. Let's count those. One, we got two here. RJ, you're a really good sport for agreeing to do this, so shout out to you. I'll give you credit first and foremost. So I'm also calling this the NFC East Mixtape with the LIX from Super Bowl 59. These are Super Bowl champions again, and I think we've reached a point. I mean, you can be like, "Oh, the Cowboys have more," whatever. I don't think anyone can hurt me. I don't think anyone can hurt me when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles in football. I've seen Eagles win 2 Super Bowls. I didn't think they were ever going to win one. Like, mentally, I was prepared for them to never do it because it never happened. And here we are. They've won 2. This one was, quite frankly, hard to believe, like, that it happened because of how it happened. You were there in person to see it. I do want to get your, experience, how that was. I guess I don't even have a really point here. I'm just rambling on about how the Eagles won the Super Bowl. And even more than that, this isn't like the New York Giants Super Bowl runs where it was like, at least, you can speak if you disagree, where they were so fluky, right? Like, no one was like looking to become the next New York Giants. I think that's fair to say. Like, it wasn't like, oh, they have this great infrastructure and super team and it all coming together. That's not really, because going into both of those playoff runs, like, Tom Coughlin was like on the hot seat and like ready to be fired. And although you could say Sirianni entered the season at a similar point, but I would think you would agree with me, and based on the articles I'm seeing from Vlogging the Boys, even Big Blue View, Hog Saban hasn't caught up yet. It's like the Eagles are the standard, and you said that about the Eagles. I think when they went to the Super Bowl the last time, didn't even win it. You said they were like the standard in the NFC. Like, everyone is chasing them in terms of their model and everything, and that's really bore out here because not only are they 2-time Super Bowl champions, and the NFL, not for long, as we know, but like, with this infrastructure in place, I think that's what the most exciting thing is. They won 2, yeah, but like, why can't they potentially win more? Or at least they're going to be heavily in the mix for that. So there's my opening salvo.
So that everyone is well aware, we rarely have any kind of rundown, or sometimes we have some loose notes, but like, this was truly Brandon saying we have to record. And I actually should be honest, Brandon wanted to record last week, and I was not ducking this in any way. I was really sick, and I think that's still kind of obvious in the tenor of my voice, and I'll apologize now if I cough. I was at the Super Bowl, as you mentioned. I was in New Orleans for the entire week for SB Nation. I'm more than happy to offer my perspective. And I'll say now, to kind of couch everything, I am not trying to ruin this for you. I'm a very, very firm believer in, when you win any title, you should rub it in people's faces. I told you that when I first met you. For anyone who, again, to kind of contextualize the moment here, I got this job in June of 2018 when the Eagles were originally Super Bowl champions. And Brandon and I have talked about a lot of the content he had at the time. I remember you had a post like that offseason that was like, here's a list of every team that won the Super Bowl and every team that didn't win the Super Bowl. And it was really, really funny. And I did a lot of podcasts that year, obviously, with Michael Kist and with John Stolnis. And I told them what I will reiterate to you and all of the lovely people who were here in the chat. it is your time. It is your time. You cannot be wrong. You can say anything and everything that you want, and you should make people's lives miserable because your team is atop the mountain. Like, that's the rule. Like, that's what sports are. So I fully endorse that. Now, you said that the Eagles can't hurt you, or nobody can hurt you. I forgot how you put it relative to the Eagles and whatnot. And that's obviously true. You've seen 2 different Super Bowl runs in your lifetime now. You can't hurt me. Like, nobody can hurt me, like, relative to the Cowboys. And I think that's maybe the best place to start, because I think that's why a lot of people are here to see me squirm. The first Eagles title was highly annoying. It was awful. It was obnoxious. I hated every single part of it. And I hated the people. I will never forget Michael Irvin wanted the Eagles to win that game because he didn't want the Patriots to pass the Cowboys in Super Bowl titles, which they eventually did, but which was dumb at the time. And I hated every part of it because, and I wrote this, that the night that the Eagles won the Super Bowl, I wrote it from the Superdome where they won the Super Bowl.
I did see this. Yes.
I said it was so frustrating that we could never hold that over Eagles fans anymore. Like, you've never won the Super Bowl. This really doesn't bother me. Like, it truly, like, am I bothered that the Eagles won the Super Bowl? Absolutely. Would I have preferred the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl? Obviously. I don't have Chiefs fatigue the way other people do. Maybe I'm just, like, dead as an NFL fan, but this is just, like, they're an amazing team and they try really hard, and I respect the way they go about doing it. And the Cowboys don't try. In fact, every time, I would have a conversation all week long in New Orleans talking to people who, you only see in person at events like these. I like, my new sort of position is, I think it's embarrassing that the Eagles only have 2. Like the fact that the Cowboys are not trying at all, and that Dak Prescott is 9-4 against them, against the Eagles specifically. Yeah. Like,
right. Hang the banner.
I'm not hanging a banner, believe me. I don't know if Dak was sincere in that comment or whatever, but my point is, like, the Eagles should be smoking the Cowboys. They should be smoking the rest of the NFL because they want to win the Super Bowl. And I respect that. I revere the Super Bowl. I love the Super Bowl. I love how epic it is. It's a universally understood thing, an event. And so I've been very fortunate throughout the era of the mixtape and having this job and knowing you to interact with some really pleasant Eagles fans. There are, some that I think could, use some readjustment in life, whatever. And I am genuinely happy that you are happy.
Yeah, I think that, like, I'm not even getting the joy out of, like, shoving this in your face as much as I thought I would once upon a time, because I think it goes back to the first Super Bowl. Yeah, because it was just, because that was always the argument. It was like 0 rings, and there was no rebuttal to that. And once you had the one, but still, like, you would give me crap and stuff. But now it's just like the Eagles have, like, superseded, like, that element of, like the Cowboys, like, being the division rival is, like, the main focus. It's like, no, they've transcended that kind of pettiness. I feel like it's not even as fun because I know the Cowboys have more Super Bowls ultimately, but it does feel like punching down now. The Eagles have 1, 2 in this stretch, and the Cowboys haven't even been to a championship game as the longest tenured NFC team to not go to even appear in a championship game now since Washington made it. It's like the same level of satisfaction isn't even there as it used to be, which is kind of frustrating. It's not quite akin to this, but it's almost like, the Eagles and Giants used to have a rivalry, but considering the Eagles just, like, beat the crap out of them, and the Cowboys have kind of experienced that too. It's been so one-sided that it's not like I'm ever like, yeah, suck it, Ed Valentine. It's like, no, it's like they just do this all the time. It's not even really that interesting in a bigger scope. Like the Saquon thing, like that, I should really be able to throw that in Ed's face, but it's like, it's not even, he doesn't care. Like, he's so beaten down, like that's not really bothering him. So it's almost taken away from it. It is very much a good problem to have, I would say. I would say the fact that the Eagles Super Bowl win was relatively boring. Again, also, like, a good problem to have. I will say it almost made me, like, I wasn't ecstatic after the win. Not that I wasn't happy, but I wasn't, like, jumping for joy, like, at the final whistle again, the way it felt in the previous Super Bowl win, just because of how anticlimactic it was and how easy. It's just like, because to me, it really felt like that kind of moment, a kind of scenario was only ever possible, like, playing Madden. Like, those are the situations I would create. You'd play in Madden to see the Eagles win a Super Bowl before they never had done, and be playing on easy mode. And it's like, it's just, oh yeah, it's a breeze. It doesn't even feel that good because it's like, yeah, I beat the computer on easy. Like, anyone could do this. But to turn that in reality and see that in reality is to still, it's like I'm still, like, trying to comprehend how much of a beatdown that was. And I say that as someone who, as you know, was picking the Chiefs to win that game, no matter what. I don't care who they played. I was saying I was picking the Chiefs to three-peat, regardless of who they were playing in the Super Bowl. Just so happened that they ended up playing the Eagles. I did feel like the Eagles were going to win the game. Like I had an emotional feeling, but I logically couldn't get there just because of the inevitability of Mahomes and the Chiefs. But I will say, I think, and we should turn the discussion here, at least at some point, because this is a big part of it.
Okay.
I think it's really interesting, like, because how do we like rank Jalen Hurts now? You know, in the context of the NFL, that is such like an interesting thing. And Jalen Hurts, remind you, who refused to lose.
Oh jeez. I make up in no way for Pete Sweeney. Like that. I know
it's not for you. It's more of a reference for the SB Nation NFL show diehards, and it's a deep cut there. It's not at you, but I had to say it because he did refuse to lose to the quarterback who refuses to lose, and Patrick Mahomes. But seriously, that's part of it. And I brought up before the championship game, as you like to remind me, like Jalen Hurts did fumble in that Super Bowl, but like he largely outplayed Patrick Mahomes in that game. And even if you want to debate that and say he didn't, okay, he definitely did in this game, not even close. And for as much as I like to criticize some quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins at different levels, not saying they're all the same kind of player, different tiers.
Joe Burrow escapes your criticism, interestingly.
I mean, Joe Burrow's been to a Super Bowl.
Okay.
With a terrible offensive line.
Okay.
Anyway, but sure, throw him in there. I'm not like trying to defend him. Is that big game performances matter to me. Lamar Jackson has 2 regular season MVPs. Great. I say all the time, he's one of the best. He might be the best regular season player ever. That's fantastic. What does it matter if he's not going to show up big in the playoffs? Like that's what it's all about. I'm not to get all rings culture, but like that does matter a lot. And the fact that Jalen Hurts has came up huge in the biggest games of his career consistently, I don't think that's just a coincidence. I think that's like a DNA makeup thing. And that's special. And he has 3 times as many playoff wins as Dak Prescott has now. And he also has 2 fewer losses at the same time. I mean, it's weird. It's weird because like, how do you rank that, compared to like Lamar Jackson again, who almost won 3 regular season MVPs. But I mean, what are your thoughts on that, I guess?
So a few things, because I think it's important to address the chat. Big Mike McD asked if it was a Philly Love mug that I'm drinking out of. This is a Legoland mug. We got it a couple summers ago when we took my son to Legoland. So I just wanted I'm not bothered by the Eagles winning the Super Bowl, but I still hate
yes
them.
You are. You're not as bothered as you might have thought. I mean, you don't love it, obviously. You are at more than 0%. You are bothered.
Also, the great Elizabeth. Again, I'm just reading comments. Said, okay, low-key RG looks amazing. I mean, just these are just comments in the chat. So
I think she recognizes you're down bad in a big way, and being a good person and uplifting you.
You said a lot, and I think this is kind of like you squeeze a lot out of the toothpaste tube, I squeeze a lot of the toothpaste tube kind of conversation. But to talk on the Jalen Hurts thing, I agree with AC Phila. I think generally the most. Says Jalen Hurts is good enough to win a Super Bowl. I don't care about the rankings. We never have to look for a quarterback early in the draft until he retires. I don't know about the last part. Whatever.
We'll see how he ages over the course of his career. But yes, certainly not a short-term concern.
My point, and what I'm going to say is in no way like a demerit or an indictment against Jalen Hurts, who's phenomenal. Rank him how you want. Is he a top 5? Whatever. I think it's stupid. And I think the Eagles have proven that you don't have to win things conventionally. That's what makes the Eagles who they are. The Eagles have 2 Super Bowl wins against Tom Brady in arguably his finest hour and against Patrick Mahomes seeking a 3-peat.
And the only team to ever beat Vince Lombardi in the playoffs. I know that's 1960, a long time ago, but still, that's crazy.
Okay, I'm talking about this current.
But add those together, that's pretty insane.
Okay, but I'm talking about who they are and who they are. You talked about, they're the standard. They're that's what they are. They're I remember the years that Tony Romo got hurt, or even the first season that Dak Prescott missed, majorly in 2020. I remember thinking oh man, it would suck to win the Super Bowl. And I remember thinking it would the way the Eagles won the first Super Bowl is the worst way to win it. And to I guess compartmentalize my thoughts, I would have been highly annoyed if the Eagles had beaten the Chiefs the first time. And some of that was that the Cowboys had not completely proven to us how pathetic they are. But some of it is, and I told you this then, every week when we were doing the mixtape, it was the most like soaking wet awesomeness, of a season you could have had. Like everybody set every record and everybody was leading in the NFL and every single thing. Like it was literally like a Madden season, like that you could have lived out. This was not that. Like the Eagles have just proven to be inevitable. The Eagles have just proven to be like fully willing and able to adapt to whatever the circumstances are. I think that spills into Jalen Hurts. The conversation was had a lot before the first Super Bowl between the two teams. Like, oh, the Eagles have the better, roster, 2 through 53, but the Chiefs have the better one. Like obviously talking about the quarterback. And I still think that's true. I don't think anyone would say that Jalen Hurts is better than Patrick Mahomes. I don't think that you would. And it doesn't matter. Like the Eagles can have the best this or the worst that, or the whatever this. Like maybe you think Sirianni's not a top 10 coach. I don't believe that, to be clear, but like you could say whatever you want and it doesn't matter. Like there's no way that you can count them out because the sum, I always mess this expression up. I honestly quite don't understand it, but like the sum is greater than the total or the total of its parts or whatever. Like it does not matter. Like there's not, I truly believe Jalen Hurts could retire today and I would still, think highly of the Eagles. They did lose the quarterback who took them to the Super Bowl and even the quarterback who won the Super Bowl. I mean, like there is no like common denominator. And that to me is the most impressive thing about the franchise is that they are common denominator. Well, like now you can talk about like important players, like
No, we're talking about like Howie Roseman. We're talking about Jeff. Okay, I think Jeffrey Lurie. That's the real answer here, and that's
but there's like to that end, there's nothing that you can look at with them and say like, oh, we have to copy that. Like, oh, cool. Like you want to like build an awesome offensive line, like that makes sense. But like they have all sorts of like financial money in players that weren't part of this or that aren't performing well or whatever the case may be. They are kings and masters of adapting to different circumstances, to different situations. And that's why, like, if you want to outlaw the tush push or whatever stupid thing, they'll find a new way. Like they will always find a new way. So like, that's my answer on Jalen Hurts. Is he a top 5 or top 3 or whatever? I really don't have the energy to like fight back against whatever claim somebody wants to offer. But the ultimate answer is it does not matter.
It does matter. But the phrase you're looking for is the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
It's a very confusing phrase. I don't totally understand it, to be honest with you.
Well, we won't get into that here, but Jeffrey Lurie is the common denominator, and that I saw you wrote about this as well for Blogging the Boys. This is like, if you're a Cowboys fan, like watching this, being like, why am I watching this? Probably, maybe you've turned it off by now. But I mean, that's the relevant part of this discussion and how it does apply to the Eagles and how it doesn't apply to the Cowboys when it comes to having an owner who is demonstrably, not just with his words, invested in winning, like, and backs it up. And, has faith in how, like, Howie Roseman deserves a lot of credit, obviously, but like he's not able to do what he does and have like the risk tolerance that he's allowed to have and the longevity and the room for the margin for error to mess up if Jeffrey Lurie like doesn't ultimately believe in him. Like Howie could be the same person he is for a different ownership who's less patient, and he's not going to have success there probably because he's not going to get enough runway maybe to actually fully build that thing. So I think that's really what the big takeaway here is, just considering that it is a different coach. It's a different quarterback. A lot of the players are different. There's only 4 members of this Eagles Super Bowl team who previously won a ring with the team in Super Bowl 52. It's Lane Johnson, Brandon Graham, who probably might retire after this year. We'll see. And then the specialists, Jake Elliott and Ricky Lovato, the long snapper. So it's really incredible. And obviously, they were here 2 years ago. So you've been in 3 Super Bowls. That's
is Lovato the one who was on The Voice?
I don't know. Oh. You talking about Demi Lovato?
No, the long snapper.
No, you're thinking of, I think, John Dornbos.
Oh, I think you're right. Is he the one who had the Halo video, like the Halo singing it in the like his collegiate locker room?
I don't think
whatever?
that was a long snapper. I think that was like a offensive lineman. I think that was like Ian Park or something.
I'm going to answer a question from the chat. So Zach M says, RJ, I want to hear your thoughts on Sirianni. If I remember correctly, you're a hater. The mixtape was born the year that Nick Sirianni took over the Eagles, for anyone who hasn't been around with us from the beginning. And if that's
true? I thought it was 2020.
No, it was born in 2021. It was, we did the Football Friday thing on Black Friday after Thanksgiving in 2020. And maybe that was the like genesis of it, but the mixtape was born in 2021. So that being said, I have said a lot about Nick Sirianni. The take that I'm the most proud of is that I fully believe he was wearing the highlighter Sharpie on his visor to be a Halloween costume in Philadelphia. That being said, I came around on Sirianni before you did. We obviously haven't been doing the mixtape, with regularity this year, and we don't have to get into that. And again, we're trying to fix that.
What a blessing for you.
Seriously. And I tweeted this. I even sent you this when I was at media night, all sorts of stuff. I think the person who gets the least amount of credit relative to what they've earned is Nick Sirianni. We can sit here and we can say, okay, now you got to give Jalen Hurts his flowers, and there's a very fair argument behind that, obviously. I think the argument is even louder for Nick Sirianni. I mean, I don't mean to take away from Jalen Hurts again, but he's been the head coach now for 4 years. He's been to the playoffs all 4 years. Granted, the first year was the second year of the 7 seed and whatever they were. But still, he's a playoff team. He's been to the Super Bowl twice, came very close to winning the first one, demolished the Chiefs in the second one. And I think that can he be a bit much? Is he a bit extra? Is he super annoying? Yes. Obviously, those things are well documented at this point in time. I tweeted this then. I fully believe there was no way that Nick Sirianni was going to lose to the Chiefs again. I think it was more advantageous to the Eagles playing the Chiefs than it would have been had they played the Bills, because I fully believe that it really bothered him in a way that it wouldn't bother everybody, if that makes sense. And I mean, the way they played was absurd, and you can give credit to Jalen Hurts and to AJ Brown and Devontae and Howie and Jeff Stalin, whoever you want, Big Dom if you want, but you have to give an enormous amount of credit to Nick Sirianni for what he's done. And I think I hate him already as is, but if I was an Eagles fan and therefore not as good of a person, if I was an Eagles fan, I would love Nick Sirianni at this point. Obviously it's easier now because he embraced the Philly culture. That's a very, very, very difficult thing to hold. And did he make mistakes, and did he err, and did he learn in the process? Absolutely. But I mean, I think he made it sweeter than it would have been with somebody else.
So would you rank Nick Sirianni over Mike McCarthy at this point?
I maintain that Mike McCarthy has gotten no credit for anything good that he's ever done in the NFL. But sure, fine. I'm good. I
so
think
it goes Ron Rivera, Nick Sirianni, Mike McCarthy. No, that's just a joke.
I think the only coaches who right now I'm slam dunk taking over Nick Sirianni in the entire NFL are Andy Reid. Even still, I think that's fair.
The longevity is
and
hard to argue.
John Harbaugh. That's it. And I'm kind of giving John Harbaugh some veteran cred here. Today I don't think I would take Mike Tomlin, even though he has the same.
You're not putting Brian Schottenheimer up there?
I think that you and I personally have gone so far with our Sean McVay hate that maybe he's become underrated again. And I would think about putting Sean McVay right there. But the point is,
I think he's good. He's good. But people.
My point is, without breaking a sweat, Nick Sirianni is a top 5 coach of the NFL.
Also very convenient, by the way, in hindsight, that Sean McVay gets the Super Bowl the year the Chiefs aren't there. That counts. I'm not saying hold it against him. I'm just saying that is incredibly convenient for him to turn out that way. Anyway, not about him. I will say about Sirianni, and where I am willing to apologize and say I was wrong, isn't about the stuff that people complain about in terms of being a bit much or whatever. That never was my main criticism of him. My main criticism of him, been pretty consistent about this, and why I thought they shouldn't bring him back, is I'm confused about how he gives the team an edge in any kind of way. And obviously, even with his success this year, I think it's impossible to argue they're not a head coach driven organization, and that's okay. I'm not saying they have to be, but if you make the top list,
anything driven, or
they're an ownership GM. They're absolutely a GM driven ownership GM. Anyway, but hold on. I want to give him credit here for learning and growing, and I think that is something if I'm apologizing and regretting something, it would be that we give players time to grow, right? Or at least, we try to, or we talk about that they're developing. They might take time. I think we probably don't typically have that standard for head coaches as much. Maybe some younger ones, sure. Or maybe it's a year, and then that we kind of give them that's their grace period, 1 year. Which Sirianni didn't really even have. There was talks about firing him because he got off to a rough start there for a bit. So I think it's possible he grew from the last Super Bowl, like you talked about. And one of my biggest critiques of him in general was not being aggressive enough. And I bring up how he punted on 4th and 3 in that Super Bowl. And in this game, they go for that 4th down early in the game. It gets called back to the penalty, ticky-tack penalty, but whatever. That I don't care. The fact that he was willing to go for it, I think set the tone. And then even later in the game, where mic'd up clips have since shown
Right.
that when, they get the ball back after the fourth down, I think, the fourth down turnover, and Sirianni's like, if we score here, game's over. It's like, just call it. Like, call the kill shot right now. And obviously, he's not like literally calling the play, but he's directing the approach, which is great. Like, that's exactly what and it worked. And I thought it was exactly the right call. If you have a chance, the Chiefs are up against the ropes, like deliver the knockout punch right there. Don't play it cute and let him get back into it. So, I will give him credit for growing in those regards. I'm still going to be, nitpicking and criticizing him when it comes to fourth down decisions, I'm sure, for the foreseeable future. But the one thing I did hesitate to say why he should be fired. I did ultimately believe he should be fired. But the one thing that I would give him credit for in the past, at least prior to this year, was the culture. And I think it's it's hard to evaluate that because I think the players have a big role too in setting the culture. It's not just the coach. So it's hard to kind of separate that. But clearly, more often than not, there have been good vibes. The players seem to really like each other. There's good chemistry. And, some of that goes hand in hand with winning, and they're very talented. So again, it's hard to totally parse out. But I will say, I think, there's a ton of evidence that he only helps foster that as opposed to, creating strife or anything like that. So I will give him credit for that. And I think that's a big area where he's helped out.
There's a bit of history is written by the winners now going on with Sirianni, right? Now you can really you can't clap back at certain things because he's won the Super Bowl. But it's like I said throughout the McCarthy era for the Cowboys relative to Mike and to Dak is people would talk about the Cowboys and they're this and this and this, but they're trash. Well, they can't be this good, consistently, relative to what we all know. We obviously the Cowboys failed in the grand scheme of things, and the head coach sucked and the quarterback sucked. Something had to be really good that was propelling that. And to that point, and I'm guilty of early on saying well, what does Sirianni do? This is all Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon. And I think it is it representative of him and Howie and Jeffrey Lurie being able to identify and hire elite talent? Absolutely. But the man went to multiple Super Bowls with two different sets of coordinators and almost won them both and destroyed the team in the second. When everyone just assumed it was, yourself included, a formality that they were going to lose. And look, I know that Kellen walks on water in Philadelphia forever now, but I don't really believe in Kellen more. And
a lot of Eagles fans didn't up until the championship game, really.
Well, and I don't find if I were power ranking the credit for the Eagles offense, Kellen is near the very bottom for me. I mean, but I'm not saying I could call the Eagles offense, but my point is I felt this was a worse Eagles offense than recent years. It was still incredibly good, which speaks to how incredible it was in years past.
Yeah, but no, it was. I think it was their worst offense of the Sirianni era, I guess, except maybe outside of his first year.
So my point is that I wouldn't offer that Kellen was some handicap on the Eagles offense. But my point is Sirianni managed all of that. And these are loud personalities in a good way, in a very loud fan base. And he threaded that needle. Did he come close to the line multiple times in the process? Yes, of course. But I just don't know. You can't look at all the Eagles have done in the Sirianni era specifically and say, oh, well, Jonathan Gannon and Shane Steichen and Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio and Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley and the offensive line and Jason Kelce. All these people deserve credit, but Nick Sirianni sucks. No, he has to be very, very, very good. I put him in the most important group of people, partly because of the position that he holds, but because the results speak for themselves at this point in time. And you used to say something that I really like and I use a lot now, and I steal and don't credit you. And it was that you used to say well, what's the worst that could happen? You're not going to win the Super Bowl? Oh no.
People said that about that was the big thing for Mariota and Wentz when people talked about trading up for both of those. It was this could set the franchise back. I'm to what? To when they didn't win a Super Bowl ever.
So my point is relative to that, which I think the Cowboys are stuck in that mud right now. But I think that the Sirianni go for the kill shot, that is an evolution of losing a Super Bowl. That is an evolution of knowing how close you were to immortality and having it taken away from you and saying, no, we're here now. We're not here to play scared and to hopefully get back and have it be easier. We are here right now and we're going to go take it. And I really respect that.
And having a sense of what's happening in the game. You're just delivering haymaker after haymaker offensively, defensively. So don't maybe not call a drive where you're just gonna run the ball a little bit and kill some clock and then punt. No, you're having a ton of success to step on their throat. They totally just take advantage. So I mean, I thought that was great. Obviously he deserves a ton of credit. And really, I think I talked about this with my good friend Shio Kapadia for The Ringer. He's framed it this way a lot, kind of like an all-time back up against the wall head coaching performance like ever. Like how many coaches have like gone into a season like he did, where it was like expectations are high, he almost got fired, they had an all-time collapse.
The Joe Flacco of head coach performances.
Yeah, and he delivered the Super Bowl. And he's going to be. This is his last year of his deal currently this season, but I'm imagining if he hasn't already, he's going to be signing an extension.
Only a moribund franchise would send a head coach into a contract year and invite all the criticism that would offer.
That's right. So, and he'll be one of the highest paid coaches now, probably in the NFL.
And even if he hadn't won the Super Bowl, it would have made sense to give him that extension and to make him the highest paid. And
depending on what they did, yeah.
No, but like my point is like
you're saying if they made it to the Super Bowl and lost.
Whatever. My point is
if they won 4 games, it wouldn't have made
even
sense.
If he sucked, even if he had never coached in the NFL, and if you wanted to make him the highest paid coach in the NFL, do it because it doesn't matter. Like it's just money. Like it's literally a competitive advantage that you can wield that Jeffrey Lurie understands and is willing to exploit that the Cowboys aren't, as an example. And again, that kind of brings us, I don't mean to certainly take any attention away from the Eagles, but like that's where like watching this and living this as a Cowboys fan is like, okay, yeah, like, they're trying very hard to do this. Like my team isn't trying really at all. And it makes me feel bad for people like Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons, who are, I think you can say, handicapped by the organization. And I would offer that certainly now that you're in this place of euphoria and El Dorado, that you might be willing to look at people like that and people who have played for the organization in the past and say, man, you know what? Maybe they were a little bit better than I thought because they were trying to drag this lifeless front office that wouldn't help them at all. And that's where like I'm jealous. I'm jealous of the Eagles, and I don't know how anybody couldn't be because all they want to do is win. And if anyone thinks that they're going to do anything but be 10 times more aggressive this offseason, then they're not paying attention. I mean, because it's there for the taking. And if it's not there for the taking, they'll find a way. Like that's their job is to win football games, and they understand that.
Love that movie, DreamWorks, El Dorado, The Road to El Dorado.
Cartoon?
Yeah, the movie.
Yeah, I remember. I
like that one a lot. Underrated. Fell through the cracks a little bit.
All those DreamWorks movies, like Shrek, did all the heavy lifting for that production company. Totally.
Yeah, I mean, it seems kind of crazy. Like the Cowboys would continue to operate like they would, just in the context of having that division rival, like right in front of you, winning like this. I mean, just 2 years ago, Jerry Jones talked about how the Eagles, like, quote unquote, emptied the bucket.
It was Stephen Jones, just to be clear, like just
to get to that Super Bowl.
Like, let's just. I'm just saying, like,
someone from the Jones family.
I'm fine with crapping on
Stephen
the
Jones,
Cowboys, but like, be accurate is all.
I got you, Stephen Jones. So they like emptied the bucket, which is like ridiculous, obviously, especially in the way that like the Cowboys are supposedly not emptying the bucket to get there. Yeah, I mean. Honestly, I do know what this feels like a little bit when it comes to like the Sixers and the Celtics. So I think it's kind of the same kind of like envy of like the Celtics are respected. They won a championship more recently, and they have, like this really good front office and model and everything in place. And the Sixers are just like floundering. Sixers owner Josh Harris, aka Commanders owner Josh Harris. So there you go. But I mean, yeah, I mean, like, do I respect, Dak or whoever more? I will admit that, yes, like I don't think they've had the same support that Jalen Hurts and the Eagles players haven't benefited from that infrastructure. But I will not say like that's the only reason they've come up small.
No, they're fair to criticize,
right? Because they were the first 2 seed. They were a good team last year. They were the 2 seed. Their first 2 seed to ever lose. Like that's not just Jerry Jones.
My point is simply that in real time we have learned a lot about the Cowboys and Eagles in parallel, and we have learned about the like just crater, the canyon of a gap in terms of effort from the front office. So my point to you isn't like you should acknowledge that Dak Prescott is the greatest quarterback of all time. My point to you is that like, hey, maybe some of the things that you are critical of or whatever, you should offer a bit more grace on because he does not have the same help around him that pick who I wouldn't even like, not even Jalen Hurts, like Nick Foles or AJ Feely, like any Eagles quarterback in this century, has had more of an effort and a backing from the front office than any Cowboys quarterback has.
Well, more than one thing can be true, as I often say. And
the trademarked phrase is multiple things can be true. Like, MTCBT.
No, it is more than one thing can be true.
Multiple things.
More than one thing can be true. It's literally I have 2 T-shirts that say that. Anyway, which is canon. I think it's a mix. I think it's a mix of Dak, Mike McCarthy, other players coming up small in big moments, and I think it's the fact that they have not had the ultimate.
My
I've given
only point.
every avenue to succeed.
My only point is that you're right. They came up small in the Packers playoff game, like beyond small, like they were microscopic in that game. And I don't think help from the front office would have saved them in that game specifically. My point, though, is that their room for error is so thin. Where, and again, this isn't like
yes, especially relatively. Yes.
This isn't an indictment on anybody with the Eagles, but like the safety net for the Eagles is so much higher and so vast and so much more protective because of all the help that they're given. And so you can have an off game or whatever and still be like, we all like, I don't know what the over unders were for Saquon in this game, but like, I'm assuming all the unders hit. Like, I'm sure a lot of people said things like, oh, for the Eagles to win this game, Saquon's going to have to go off. He didn't. And he didn't. And they destroyed the Chiefs. Why? Because of the way the roster is built from an overall perspective. It does like, and that's the thing for the Cowboys as of late. And again, this isn't to say that they don't deserve criticism themselves. It has to be Dak and CD and Micah being heroes. And if that doesn't happen, they don't have a chance. That's my only point.
Yeah, and obviously the gravity of Saquon was still a huge factor in, like they focused so much attention on shutting him down that it, opens things up. And obviously they don't even get to the Super Bowl at all. Even if Saquon did nothing in that game, which isn't true. He still had 97 yards from scrimmage.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing. Like, that's a bad game for him because of who
relatively.
they are. Like, yeah. So, I don't know if you wanted to touch on my experience being there or what.
Yeah, I do. I wasn't even trying to be trolly with that, although I can be. But I just genuinely wondered what it was like in the building as someone. Like I said, I was there for the first. In Minnesota for the Eagles' first Super Bowl win. I was not here this time. I was in Philadelphia. I got to go up to Broad Street afterwards with Holden and Elizabeth and others. And it was a blast. It was a party. It was unreal. It was a magical time. So tell me how it was.
It's great. Holden and I have questions on. But that being said, so this was the second Super Bowl I've ever been to, second game itself. I've been to Radio Row and the week before several times and been fortunate to do that. SB Nation sent me and our colleague Pete Sweeney, who covers the Chiefs. So Pete and I had an Airbnb. We were, roommates for the week and whatnot. We broke some bread. It was a good time. And it was fascinating to watch this game next to Pete. Who was obviously covering the Chiefs side of things.
Did he have another book ready to go after the Chiefs finished their three-peat?
I genuinely don't know if I can legally answer that question. That will be an offline conversation that you and I can have.
I respect Pete a lot, just for the record. So
for context, the only other Super Bowl that I'd been to, I went with my dad, so I wasn't working it. It was 28-3. So like, I was sure that like I was going to see something incredible. Like I was this common denominator or something. It was like over. Like it wasn't like it didn't feel like a Super Bowl in a lot of ways because it was just, I mean, it was just a blink of an eye. Like it never,
same way.
You never really had a chance to feel like the best part was the local band. I forget their name off the top of my head. Like that was amazing.
So memorable.
Well, it was really cool. Like I said, I love the pomp and circumstance that is the Super Bowl.
That was better than Kendrick.
Yeah, I'm just not like, I don't have a stake in the.
You're not a Kendrick guy?
No, I know you.
You're okay. So you're a Drake guy. Okay.
No, I'm not. I don't have. I've learned a lot about this in being there and covering things. I don't have any passionate stance on this, but that's it. Like it didn't feel like competitive in any way. Like it was crazy. And it was crazy to see like the energy from Pete just zapped. And we were talking about it after, like, making our way the trek, like the shuttle and the Uber and everything to get to the Airbnb. And then we ordered Taco Bell, not an ad.
What did you get?
Well, it was like midnight and I had to wake up like 4 hours later for my flight. And I really, really regretted this. But I got a Mexican pizza and it was great. But
this was delivered, you said, or
Pete Uber Eats did it.
That's a factor, I feel like, especially with the Mexican pizza. You don't want that. You won't want that.
And there was a lot of
sitting.
There was like a gridlock traffic. It's the night of the Super Bowl, right? Like whatever. So it did take a while. And we were just kind of like rehashing the game. And Pete was pretty down. He was like, "Why did Pat play bad?" And I was like, "I don't know, man." I was trying to console him. But also in this weird like comatose, like, oh, the Eagles won the Super Bowl, that sucks, but like I'm really not moved by that, and I'm bummed that I'm not moved by this. Like it's another indictment on my team and whatnot. But I compared it to the Cowboys-Packers playoff game. Not that the stakes were anywhere near the same, but like that game was over. And then like the worst part about that Cowboys-Packers playoff game from a year and a half ago now was that you had to sit through it. Like by midway through the second quarter, you were like, oh, the season's over. Like you were like, we have to go through 2.5 quarters just to like start the autopsy on this body. And that's what this kind of felt like. I actually would say, because Pete and I, obviously we all do similar articles and things like that. I was telling him like, if you do these like underrated moments or whatever, I would say the moment where I thought, okay, this is definitely not happening was the Nick Bolton penalty on Saquon. Because it was like, I want to say it was like 2nd and 27 and that was an incompletion. And I know that the Eagles still wound up punting, but the field position, assuming they would have punted shortly after, what was dramatically different than it would have been. I think Kansas City got their ball at the 6, and that was the Zach Bond interception. And so like that to me is the like, I think the Eagles probably win that game like 90 out of 100 times. But like that to me was the moment that like in one of those other 10 times that the tide maybe shifts a little bit for Kansas City, and it just didn't happen.
For me, I started to believe.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, Zach, not Bond, but Zach M says Preservation Hall Jazz Band. They were
that is one my good friend Zach Miller, who is of the
former Chicago Bears tight end.
No. Anyway, shout out to Zach. The moment when so obviously I picked the Chiefs to win. Logically, emotionally, the feel was like, I just feel like the Eagles aren't going to lose. So I was in a really big spot of cognitive dissonance. But I started to feel like, okay, I might be wrong when the Cooper DeJean pick 6. Like that obviously was just because that just didn't. That seems like so un-Mahomes like, right? Like Mahomes is throwing a pick 6 in the Super Bowl. Like that's really happening right now. Like that, and also the funny thing about that play too is you watch the replay, like that probably wouldn't have been a completion anyway. Like Quinton Mitchell had a really good coverage. So it was like, what was he even seeing there? That was just such an it wasn't a tipped ball. You know what I mean? I feel like usually to beat Mahomes, you have to get some kind of break. That was just like it was a really good play by Gene. But that was unreal. And then the kill shot, I still wasn't ready to call it because I've seen Mahomes come back from 24-0 against the Texans. Obviously we all saw 28-3. Was not like ready to call it until the kill shot to Devonta. Like then at that point I was like, okay, this is it. This is the game at this point.
I think it's my job, not as a journalist. I don't ever like to be like that serious about things. I think that's kind of what makes our jobs awesome at SB Nation. But as somebody who was there, I feel like it's my job to convey this information to you Eagles fans who came here and demand your tears. I wasn't like sad or mad in any way. Like
your tears.
It really was like cool for me to work the Super Bowl. Like it was a cool thing. But what I want you to understand, because I would want this satisfaction if it were me, and it won't ever be because the Cowboys are the Cowboys. Is it was an Eagles party from the moment the game started. Like just a constant.
I was hearing that. So you can confirm that there was a lot of reports that it was a pro Eagles crowd.
80-20 at
wow
least.
Wow, I didn't know because it looked like there were a lot of Chiefs fans there too, at least from behind their bench and everything. So I didn't know it was that started.
It was visually now. So the Eagles were the home team in this game, in case anyone didn't know the technical side of things, and the press box was positioned on the home side. So like that may be part of my effect is I was within the Eagles fans like all around. Visually, it did look like there was a lot of red going on, but I'd also never been in the Superdome. It was a little bit different than my experiences at AT&T Stadium. And so it was kind of difficult to fully parse how I was sort of assessing the situation, but especially after the Cooper DeJean pick. So like that happened. And he was the corner of the end zone he scored in was like in front of me, but on the bottom, like my bottom right. And I couldn't quite see him get in because it just like blew up. Like, I mean, like the stadium was on fire, and I have never heard Fly Eagles Fly in person. It was highly annoying. Like that was my personal hell. Like that was like, like you're like the scary movie, like the clown music playing. Like I was miserable. Like every single Fly Eagles Fly. I didn't even know all the words.
I was just going to say, do you feel like you could like do it now just based on hearing it so much?
Maybe. Like if I had
I'm not making you do it. I'm just asking like if you had to, let's say, to like win a prize.
It was, I didn't realize it was that elaborate of a song. I just knew there was the like spelling. my point is, like, I didn't know there was more than that. And so, but it was, I mean, just if you were, and I was really fortunate. I had some assignments from our bosses to do certain things and get some kind of man on the street fan reaction videos. And so I met a lot of Eagles fans, and every single one I met in person was delightful. And I talked to a gentleman from Florida before the game. His daughter was kind enough to take my picture so I could send my wife and my parents. And he was super cool. But every Eagles fan I met too, like, and I kind of gave my spiel. They were like, yeah, I get it. Like, I wish you were more angry about this, but like, I understand why you're not.
For me, I'll touch on my personal Super Bowl experience here for a little bit because, the first one, I was in Minnesota, very privileged to be able to do that. Thanks to SB Nation sending me for that. That was awesome. Had a chance to go in 2022, but didn't want to go because
I remember you really took a lot of time to think about that.
Well, yeah, it did. Well, it really, like, I thought it was like Eagles won the Super Bowl. I saw it. I would never like really, I mean, I would care, but like I wouldn't have that like insatiable desire to see something like bucket list item kind of thing again until it kind of like hit me over time. Like I missed the part of being in Philadelphia and getting to see everyone react live. So that started to like become more of a thing for me. And in 2022, I was watching at an apartment that was only like half a block away from Broad Street. So like right there. And they were so good that year. It just felt like, okay, I finally will get to see this. They're up 10 points in that game, as we all remember, going into halftime. And then to like be on the doorstep of that, and obviously the Phillies losing too to your Astros. Like it was just like, man, what if I missed my chance to kind of see this bucket list item kind of thing? To be quite frank, not to like sound totally unambitious, but I don't have like a ton of bucket list items. There's things I want to do in life, obviously, but like I don't have anything that's like I must see this or do this or have this experience this before I die. And that was like probably the number one thing on there was like to see a Philadelphia sports championship, not even have to be the Eagles, ideally the Eagles, before I die. And therefore to finally be on the precipice of that. And I think it started to feel like real to me, like that might actually be possible once the Commanders beat the Lions. I'm like, okay, because I was worried about Detroit. I thought the Eagles would put up a good fight, but I was like, I think it's going to be tough to beat the Lions. It's kind of like, this feels like it's their year. You're on the road. But as soon as the Commanders did that, I was like, oh no, like the NFC Championship game might be in Philly, and this might actually happen. Although the Chiefs still the ultimate obstacle. But anyway, for them to win that, I think I was just thinking about it a lot where like a Super Bowl win is this lie you can tell yourself that like everything is going to be okay for the rest of the time. And obviously, that's not true, but you can at least feel that way for like a little bit, maybe like a week, the amount of time, who knows? But that's like part of the magic of it all and that unifying experience. And for me, look, I was really depressed last year because of many reasons. We lost the podcast, and that is like a massive setback. Friendship things, relationship things, a lot of things had me down bad. And in a really dark way, I started to finally like feel like myself a little bit again when training camp rolled around. And I didn't like expect that. I wasn't like, yeah, football, I'm excited. I was kind of more just like, okay, training camp starting. Like I do this every year. I don't want to take that for granted, but like I wasn't jazzed going into it until like I was at practice. And I'm like, oh yeah, like I like doing this. This is fun to me. Like, I'm like refinding my joy that I lost a lot of joy last year for a lot of different reasons. And started to find it again. And not to say it was like a smooth sailing from that point. Obviously, there's peaks and valleys of that. But it just felt like to me, like this whole season, like culminating in this win, it just felt like kind of like healing to me. And it meant a lot. And I want to write an article about this for BGN. Still working on that. And even the harsh reality of everything will not be okay. I got hit with last week when I got hacked on Twitter, and I was extremely stressful. And not so fun and happening to a lot of people out there. So make sure you're checking your security stuff with these crypto scammers apparently running amok and trying to ruin everyone's lives. Thankfully, he was able to get it back thanks to an Eagles fan. So shout out to him. He knows who he is. Yeah. Anyway, it meant a lot. This one meant a lot to me. I can't say it meant more than the first. The first is so special. But it did really mean a lot. And to be able to watch it with friends and people I care about, it was special. So I think that's part of the vibe too. To a bigger point here, I saw Les Bowen, who used to work at the Inquirer / Daily News for years, longtime Eagles reporter, now does stuff for PHLY. he went to the parade and like wrote a story about like it was parade coverage, like kind of like interviewing people in the audience. And I've heard other people frame it this way too, but the first one was kind of like this relief, like, oh, we finally got to see it. And a lot of people like brought ashes and stuff to the parade. Like it was also felt like very connecting to the people who weren't around anymore that you knew in your life. And this one was more like a party. And this was more so that was almost like for the people who weren't around. This is like more for like the living. And this is a party and a celebration. And again, like potentially something to like the start of something here, even though they went a couple years ago, but like a part, it's not as easy as they're definitely going to win next year. I'm under no illusions about that. I saw the Eagles struggle in 2018 after winning the Super Bowl. Obviously it's hard for teams to repeat. It doesn't happen very often. It can happen, but it's very hard to do. And a lot of things have to go right that aren't even like in your control, injuries, whatever. You can do everything right and it can still go wrong just because that's how the NFL is. And sometimes the football bounces a weird way. But it's exciting to think about what could be happening for this team. And then also, last thing I'll say here is that it's also very exciting that like a big thing for me from the first team was that the Nick Foles winning it was weird because he wasn't going to be the starter the next year or ever again, really. And then obviously he did have that run the end of 2018, but then he was gone forever after that. And now it's like Jalen Hurts is here. And like, that's the Super Bowl MVP. I get to look at that guy. Even if he stinks for the rest of his career, he's still a legend in the city. He won a Super Bowl. Like he's the one of 2 Super Bowl MVPs ever in Philadelphia Eagles history. So like at the very least you have that and you're able to point to that. But even more exciting is like, hey, maybe this guy can do it again. Like that's I think the cool part and the different part about last time is like the possibility that they could do more. And just even the way people are talking about it. Like everyone's like I think already looking forward to next year, and like oh, Kevin Batul is the offensive coordinator, or like everyone's already like diving into what next year looks like. So exciting times. It will be a big test if if any team maybe could repeat as NFC East champions. I mean, maybe it's the 2025 Eagles. We'll see.
I wouldn't say found joy in, but like that was fun to make fun of or fun to press was the weirdness that you talked about, like the Cyrano effect of Nick Foles winning and how, and I always thought, and I know we talked about this a lot, and I mentioned Kist and John and the conversations I would have with them. Like the 2019 Eagles, when Wentz kind of brought them back and they won the division, like to me that seemed like a lot of Eagles that were like, okay, like we're catching up, like we're gonna fix it, like we're gonna balance the sheets, like you know what I mean, like we're gonna make up for the weirdness that was 2017 or whatever. And like to your point, like that isn't hanging over anyone's head. Again, like I hate the Eagles and Eagles fans in a sports way, but like I certainly like I said, I love the Super Bowl, and I think it's cool that like people can have moments like this, whatever team they ultimately are. You didn't mention him, but Seamus's story is super cool relative to
100%.
Eagles parades specifically. Like that kind of crap is
for those who don't know, he long story short, he met up with someone who he didn't know in the Eagles' first Super Bowl parade, and now is engaged to that person. Will be getting married soon, so huge, yeah. But that's like not to sorry to be cheesy, but like that's the power of sports, man. Like it's really cool, like that. They don't matter, obviously. Like, I mean, in terms of like the bigger picture of other things, like it's not life and death, although it can feel that way, and it does matter in what we create and the structure. And certainly here, please listen to the podcast and everything, and look at the website. But it's silly, right? Obviously, it's silly at some level that we care so much, but at the same time, can be extremely meaningful. And being happy is what life, I think, ultimately is kind of all about, and it can make you really happy. And even in the sadness, like obviously there's still like community and stuff, like obviously you're going through it with the Cowboys, but you're doing it with your community, you're doing it together. It would suck if you felt that way as you do, and literally no one else felt the same way, and you're kind of just like by yourself about it, as opposed to like you have other people to at least commiserate with.
Yeah, no, I agree with that entirely, which is why, again, like in an objective way, I can identify with how, or not identify with, but I can understand how it is cool. And you mentioned the PHLY. I was talking to a friend of mine, Joe Hoyt from DLLS, the Dallas All City site and network. I was talking to him in New Orleans, and I obviously just talk about this and that with the Cowboys, whatever, and talking about the NFC Championship game drought, which, as you mentioned, is now theirs because of Washington making it there. And the way I'm not trying to,
that's shocking.
It is shocking, but I'm not trying to say like, oh, this thing I said was really insightful. But the way I put it that I didn't realize until I said out loud was like every team, literally every team, obviously in the NFC has had a week since 2010 where like every night when they've gone to bed that week, they've thought like we could be going to the Super Bowl. Well, like, you know what I mean? Like there is, like you just talked about, like there is a power in that. Like there's a power in like an addiction, if you want to get like that intense about it, in like dreaming, like we could be, like imagining that, like knowing you're on the doorstep. And then if you win that game, even if you lose the Super Bowl, you get a 2-week run where every night when you go to bed, you think like we could win the Super Bowl. And like there's a literal generation of Cowboys fans who don't even know what that feeling is like. And that's like, you know, when people ask like, oh, what's the big deal about the draft? It's that, like, it's more than like what it is in an obvious nature. It's not having that ability to dream. Like anything you want to do is naturally suppressed and has a natural glass ceiling on it because of the fact that they've like become this meme. They've almost like taken pride in becoming this meme. And so it's really difficult to square in that sense, which is also what makes like, oh, the Eagles won the Super Bowl. Cool. Like they're really good. Like it makes sense. Like it was going to happen again. Like, especially when the Cowboys aren't doing anything to really care about stopping them. And that's where like my last Cowboys thing is, there were so many people. I think it was dumb to root for the Eagles, even if you are apathetic as a Cowboys fan, because
I would agree.
Whatever. But so there were a lot of people who held the take in the position of, oh, well, I want to see the Eagles win so that Jerry and Steven can really feel shame and embarrassment. It's like, dude, they do not care. Like, I'm so sorry to tell you, but like, they do not care. I would believe that had Washington won, I totally believe that Jeff Lurie and Howie Roseman would be like, they better not win the Super Bowl. You know, like, and that it would have motivated them if that had ultimately wound up happening. But like, there is no way. And an example is the last time the Eagles won the Super Bowl, because now it's happened twice. The Cowboys did nothing in the 2018 offseason. Jason Witten retired. They cut Des Bryant. They signed Alan Hearns. They had their super famous wide receiver by committee approach. When Dak was still on a rookie contract, like they experienced no motivation to do anything unless it is tied to their financial gain.
One thing you touched on with that first point there is that like sometimes the anticipation of something can be way better than the actual really thing, which is why
I wish I weren't here now. Wow.
I often say like Thursday is probably like my favorite. This is my favorite day of the week because like the weekend is coming. I can be excited about what the idea of the weekend is. You might say like, well, isn't the actual experience of the weekend more fun? Maybe, can be, but sometimes it's a disappointment or nothing is really going on. But the idea of excitement is exciting. And
I saw a take recently that the night before a day off is better than the day off.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. The idea of like, there's endless there's a lot of possibility that I could do. And I think, you know, AJ Brown kind of even said the same thing. I don't know if you saw in that Instagram post he had last week. And I don't think he's like being a hardo with that either. I think he means that. It's like, I thought winning the Super Bowl would be awesome. It was cool for a couple of days, but it's like, this isn't what makes me happy because you don't get to experience that all the time. So that can't be the only thing that makes you happy. And obviously you want to keep doing it. But it's, you know, it's cliche in that like the journey, you know, is more meaningful than the destination. But I think that, you know, it becomes more true, and probably as you get older too, and more experienced. So I absolutely could see like how that's relevant in your situation. But
this is my last point. I got. And then I'm done and good, whatever. But you mentioned several colleagues, people who cover the Eagles, like, man, it would just like, and I think the Washington beat, for lack of a better word, got to experience this with them going to the NFC Championship game. It's like, man, there's so many people who do such great work that like imagine what like having the stage of the team being in the Super Bowl or just the title game would do for them and do for their careers. And like selfishly, I would love that. Like I think that I'm good enough to create content that you know would live up to the moment or whatever. But like I want that for myself. I want that for, you know, the people who also cover the Cowboys, obviously. Like it is just such a rising tide that can, even if the team doesn't win, obviously, but that can lift all boats, especially though if you do win. Because like you said, there are now people who 11 days after the game, to whatever it is, I've already lost track of the count, but like are like, oh, well, 2025. And like, will be just like absorbing, like soaking in everything they can for the 2025 Eagles because the fever is that high versus like the fever, like the worst time. And you know what this is like as well, too. The worst time to be in this business, just to like be selfish about it, is when nobody cares. Like, cause you're just like, you can't do anything about it. Like you feel like so trapped by the team, and you can be as good at this as anybody in the world. But like the fact that nobody cares means that nobody cares.
Yeah, and that's not even like being bad necessarily, because like especially if you're really bad, because then you get the number one overall pick, and then people are like, okay, we're excited about that. it's kind of being stuck in the middle and some kind of mediocrity where the draft picks aren't all that amazing. You don't necessarily have a ton of resources to spend at free agency. You're kind of just a middling team that is like irrelevant. And I think that's kind of what the Cowboys have been here, basically, and will continue to be if they continue to operate under this way. Other than like you're kind of hoping against hope, kind of like Commanders fans for a while. Like, yeah, our ownership's bad, but maybe we can luck into like a good season here, and that can happen. It's not impossible, but it's like I think the difference is like with the Eagles, you're feeling like okay, their success is going to be optimized. They're going to make the most out of it. And that's not to say they're not going to have lows, because we've seen those. We've seen those lows since I've been covering the team in 2013. Those entirely possible. Nick Sirianni flames out in a couple of years. Same thing with Jalen Hurts. We've seen it. But you also feel like, okay, even if that does happen, because of how they've been able to rebuild it, as long as Howie and Lurie are here, they have a chance to turn it around.
2013, Jason Kelce's rookie year. Is that correct?
No, I think it was 2011.
Oh, man, I was off. Well, I wanted to segue because Ted E asked this question at the top, and then we had a lot of comments, so we didn't get to it. This is for you specifically. He says, Brandon, what do you think about Jason Kelce being more on KC's side? I get it's his brother, but crying over not winning 3 in a row.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really agree. I don't think he was more on KC's side. I mean, I think
you don't agree with the question, not
right.
necessarily Jason. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, it's his brother. And it's a team that he spent a lot of time with, and he cares about the people and has relationships with them. I think he's in a no-win position there, basically. And he had said, basically, on his podcast, New Heights, that like my heart is going to be with whoever loses more so, because that's like I'm gonna feel more sad for the people who are sad than I'm gonna feel happy for the people who are happy. So I don't know. Like I didn't react to any. I have no reaction to any of the Kelce stuff. He's an Eagles legend. It's that simple. He's a Super Bowl champion. He delivered the most iconic speech in probably Philadelphia history, not even just sports history, in Philadelphia history, period. Yeah, I have nothing bad to say about Jason Kelce.
Yeah, I think having no offense to Teddy or anyone, but like being bothered by this, and as a innocent bystander, being bothered by this in any way is like, dude, like your team just won the Super Bowl. Yeah, like if you're letting this bother you, like you need to like relax. And I'm not accusing Jason Kelce of this, but I also think on some emotional level, kind of like Carson Wentz in 2017, like we talked about, he probably feels weird and bummed. Like, man, I wasn't there. If I had just like stayed one more year, like that would have been me too. So
he's also been very vocal too. Like, I am not part of this. Like,
right? No, like, and
he's trying to separate himself.
He's balancing like internal emotions and trying not to let those like become narratives that people run with. Like, that's a whole different responsibility in and of itself. Like, just like I'm a little annoyed that the man is everywhere too, but like, just,
you touched on. I think that's everyone's real annoyance, and I get that. Yeah. Like, is that he's just it's overexposure. I think that's the real annoyance with everything. Is that because like, why do we even need to know his opinion on all of this? Like, it's just because we know his opinion on literally everything. And I'm not saying he should stop. I'm just saying like, there's so much overexposure, and I think people should just probably not even care too much about what he thinks.
Do we have anything else on this that we want to hit? Anything at all?
Rest of the division. So we got what's coming up here? Combine.
I guess if the Giants trade for Matthew Stafford, are we concerned at all? I mean, you're not, but like,
I don't think. Well, first of all, I don't think the Rams should. I don't get why they would. I mean, like,
you mean the Giants?
No, I'm saying the Rams. I don't think should trade Stafford, okay, barring like a no-brainer kind of offer, because they should just run it back. But if the Giants do, am I concerned? No, because I think that's like not a good long. I mean, am I concerned about the Eagles beating them in 2025? Sure, they'll be a better team, but I don't think that's a good long-term play for them.
I'm concerned about the Giants from a Cowboys perspective. And you mentioned that I wrote about this, but so Albert Breer had this whole write up about Jeffrey Lurie specifically, and touched on how he sold. I don't know if you wrote about this at the time, but he sold. Correct me if I'm wrong on the details. 8% of the Eagles,
small amount,
for $664 million, and like I've done a lot of content around this week. Like, and I'm not the way I keep couching it is like I'm not a financial analyst, but like the layman's terms effect here is Howie Roseman is an incredibly wealthy person, but he doesn't individually have the liquid cash to be able to do certain things, even as wealthy.
Jeffrey Lurie.
Yes, I'm sorry, yeah. Jeffrey Lurie. So he doesn't have the like liquid cash to be able to do certain things. So he said, "Oh, what do I do to like get it? I'll sell a piece of this, and I'll still be the majority owner, and I'll still be able to do everything I want, and I'll get this influx of cash. So if we want to, just like front load signing bonuses, or we want to like improve the facility or the stadium. Like I have the cash.
The highest paid coach. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I have the cash to do that today. I don't have to like, it doesn't have to be in holding or something like that. And the Giants, the New York Giants.
Football Giants.
Yeah. Like the Maras and the Tishes are selling up to 10%, which is the maximum allowed by NFL rules. This is a new thing as of last August. The Giants are selling up to 10% equity in their team for the same reasons, seemingly, to get an inflow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, that would be the presumption, right? Like to get some liquid cash so that they can do whatever they intend to do with it. And how could you not, look at what the Eagles did and say, let's copy that? And where I'm concerned is NFL teams are so valuable now that no singular entity can have that liquid cash, especially with other business ventures that they all obviously have. And so there is no way that the Joneses will sell a fraction of a percentage to get even just the smallest amount of liquid cash. So people call them cheap, and they are cheap because they don't have that liquid cash to move around in the exact same way. So I'm bummed.
Or they don't, take advantage of it. Yes, they don't. They're not one of the, they're not top spending cash teams or whatever.
Because how could you have the cash? Like you could be worth $11 billion, but that doesn't mean you have $11 billion to play around with. And so, I mean, and they won't involve anyone else. They won't rope in other people because then they don't have the stage all to themselves.
So we'll see. I still think, they obviously have to figure out the quarterback thing, a big deal for the Giants. Commanders, I'm interested to see this offseason what they do. I do think there's a chance that they smell themselves a little too much. And kind of like the Texans basically from this past year, where it's like, oh, the Texans are going to be awesome. CJ Stroud was an MVP candidate as a rookie. He's going to be even better. I like Jalen Daniels a lot. I said on the NFC Championship game preview, I think he might be, potentially will be the best quarterback in this division for years to come and could be a big time issue. But I'm interested to see what they do around him. Obviously, he's been like a top landing spot in terms of rumors for Myles Garrett. That would be a bad situation for every other team in the NFC East if that becomes true. So they're going to be an interesting team to see this offseason. I just wonder if they're going to be reading their own press a little too much. And it's going to be a very interesting season or offseason for that franchise specifically. I'm intrigued to see what they do.
For what it's worth, the Texans were very aggressive in the offseason. They traded for Stephon Diggs. They signed Danielle Hunter. They traded for Joe Mixon. So like they did the right things. You know what I mean? Did they smell themselves? Maybe. They still won the division. That won't be as easy, obviously, for Washington. But like
that's another big part of it.
They did everything right. They just regressed. I mean, and some of it was
the quarterback. Yeah,
I know. But my point is simply that like they
didn't rest on the offensive line enough. That's not true. That's obviously
I know, but they didn't like generally rest on their laurels. They went for it, and I think that they deserve props for that. And so you're right. I'll be interested to see how Washington handles themselves. If they get Myles Garrett, then this is a tough season. I think that there's an argument to be made that Jayden Daniels could be the best quarterback in the division a year from now. And like again, that's not a slight against Jalen Hurts because that's only competition right now. But like he will I think be in when people are like, oh, if I could have any quarterback today, I would take Jayden Daniels over Jalen Hurts. Like whatever. And again,
the rookie contract thing is a huge factor, and also like the upside.
And like who cares? Again, if you're an Eagles fan and someone says that, who cares? You have enough reasons to have security in yourself and your team at this point in time. My last question, I guess, for you is, does Micah Parsons have his extension with the team before or after the NFL draft? Like if that's our over under, like are you taking before or after the draft?
Oh, after. That's a lock. Me
too. I do think that Micah is a different challenge for the Cowboys, and that sounds negative about Micah. I went to a live show of his podcast. There was a live show in New Orleans, and my friends at Bleacher Report invited me, and it was really cool. I got to ask a question. So basically, Micah and I are like best friends now. But that being said, Micah is challenging them, right? Like saying, I want us to be aggressive and whatever. And on some level, I wish that Dak and CD had done those things. I'm not blaming them for not doing it. It's not their job.
It's not their job.
But it is cool that Micah is doing it. Like multiple things could be true. Sure. And so
you're seeing Joe Burrow do it too with the Bengals. Like that's
right. Exactly. And so, like if they like ESPN had an article today, the day we're doing this, that was like free agency goals or something for every single team. And I'm paraphrasing now, but the way they put it was like, there is no reason for the Cowboys to wait, just like there was no reason for them to wait on CeeDee and Dak last year. And look, the Cowboys are going to be the Cowboys. They're going to be the most watched team, and like they're not going to suffer financially. But dude, like people are at the end, and if they wait on Micah, it will be tough.
I agree.
Are you trying to get out of here? Is that what you were saying?
No, songs.
Oh, so you are trying to get out of here?
Well, I mean, did you have anything else?
No, I'm good. I'm ready to add a song. I thought a lot about this today, so I'm ready if you are.
So I have two because I did it wrong last time, and I picked one that I already had added to our playlist. I had already put Not Like Us by, or sorry, Rachel, I think I already put Not Like Us by Kendrick Lamar in there, so I didn't want to do a repeat. I didn't realize at the time that was a repeat. Playlist is getting longer. It's hard to find the repeats on short notice.
It wouldn't have let me add it if it was a repeat, and it did.
Oh, so maybe you added it then before, because I thought I looked at it like right after and I saw it on there already. But anyway, okay.
Yeah,
so
like I add it like as we're talking. Like mine is already on here. I just added it right now. So my song, shout out to my friend Pledge, James Pledger from San Antonio. He told me about this song and I took forever to listen to him and therefore listen to it. It's called ADHD by Truslow.
Never heard of it.
It's a banger. It's got some like Imagine Dragons feel to it, so I highly recommend.
You big Imagine Dragons guy?
I mean, they had a moment, there was a lot of like Imagine was a great song, or was it called Imagine?
Yeah,
but like Radioactive was great. You know what I mean? Like they got a lot of bangers. So
I am going with a song by Queen. It is called "We Are the Champions."
Okay, I mean, I don't blame you for that. I just think there was a better way to do that, but
I had to do it.
Okay.
I mean, it's a good song, regardless of the implication. It's just a good song.
Do we have a movie or television recommendation?
I did just watch. What was I watching recently? Oh, I'm working on Ted Lasso. I've been watching that with my parents over the course of a long time. They have already watched it. They wanted me to watch it. I think it is one of those rare things in life where you hear so much hype about it. I didn't expect it to be bad, but it's just, it's hard for something to live up to the hype you hear when you hear it like so much and so often. But in this case, it obviously did. Again, 2 episodes away, so I've not seen the end yet. But it's a great show. So that's been
shout
awesome.
out to my 2 favorite Eagles fans, Mr. and Mrs. Gowton. They're wonderful people, and I hope that they check their mail. Your dad will know what that means.
Wow.
But
that sounds like a threat.
Your dad will know what that means. That's all I'm saying. But that being said, Ted Lasso is great. I just finished. I had to think about this in an email, a work email you might have seen. I just finished Only Murders in the Building. My wife had told me to watch it like a year ago, and I didn't listen. That was my bad. And it was awesome. It was super funny and super clever. And it was so good that I was legitimately sad when it was over. That like I couldn't hang out with them anymore. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So on the subject of Apple,
the hallmark of a good show.
Right. On the subject of Apple TV, because you talked about Ted Lasso, I just started Severance. So I'm 2 episodes in. It's pretty good.
Heard a lot of good things about that as well. I think that's kind of like on my list at some point to check out. Also, I will plug Survivor. Season, what is it, 47? No, 48, I guess it'll be.
Next week.
I can't believe that. This has been the shortest wait between seasons apart, because the Eagles Super Bowl run here. But pretty crazy that that's starting up already. So, yeah, everyone watch Survivor.
We don't have podcast news ourselves, fingers crossed, obviously, but there was some podcast news today. I don't know if you saw. Rachel is the On Fire host.
Oh, no, I didn't.
This year. So,
spoiler alert.
Or this season.
Yeah.
How's that a spoiler alert? I mean, that's not a spoiler alert.
I didn't know. I wanted to see, but that
does make a lot
of sense.
It wasn't Rome. That was the big shocker.
That's not a shocker. I mean, if they had Rome on, he just would talk the whole time. Like, you wouldn't let Jeff talk.
Right. The Dallas Cowboys of Survivor contestants. And The Amazing Race is back the week after. And look, this is a great time for television. Full Swing, Netflix's golf documentary comes out with a new season this weekend. I think the USA documentary, the Team USA, the basketball team from this past summer, their documentary's out. Drive to Survive new season's coming out. It's a good time to have an NFL offseason, basically, is my point.
I'm excited to get to watching some things. I want to see the new Marvel movie. I haven't heard great things, but I still want to see it anyway in theaters.
That's the Dallas Cowboys of media, really. It's more the Marvel franchise. So.
Yeah.
Big Mike McD says, great to have you guys back. Definitely worth blowing off the end of my workday. Fly, Eagles, fly.
Absolutely.
Also, I didn't wait to tell you this on purpose, but the Florida man, which I recognize as an adjective, I don't mean it that way, but the Florida man, Eagles fan who I met at the Superdome, whose daughter took my picture, was super delightful. He asked for my business card, and I gave it to him because I'm a professional, because he said, I love Bleeding Green Nation, and I love Brandon Gowton. So I said, hey, take my card. And I kind of thought he would email me after or something like that. I'm getting ghosted. So
he's a busy guy. The Eagles won the Super Bowl. He's celebrating still.
That's true. Okay.
But I appreciate that. And obviously check out Bleeding Green Nation for me. Check out Logging the Boys for RJ.
Super Bowl winning Brandon Lee Gowton. The final word belongs to you.
The Eagles won Super Bowl 59.